What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. I'm your host, Alan Sakyan. Pumped to now be talking about satisficing and maximizing. We have Alton's son joining us on the show. Hi, Alton. Thanks for coming on the program. Really excited for this conversation. For those who don't know Alton's background, he is a systemic Satisficer. And you can find his Facebook link in the bio below. Alton, what is satisficing?
A lot of it looks like this, just done intentionally, where this is all there is and there's nothing else. For a period of time, just allocating like time budgets for anything you could ever want. To know for me that everything that I could ever want is a number of conversations away, and that I have like dedicated time to have those conversations in my life. Satisficing is like being happy with whatever you have. I'll go with that.
Interesting. Being happy with whatever we have.
Having some very specific conditions that once met, you're like, stop looking.
The cessation of seeking.
Yeah, or you can satisfy some period of time to seek things too, but to have an established, for me, what it looks like, an established upper and lower bound of bandwidth or time dedicated to that.
How do we become happy or satisfied with what we have if we maybe have not enough water?
I don't know, I have far too much privilege to actually deeply entertain.
Likewise.
But I can really look at it. I mean,
yeah, likewise.
Would you want me to answer it theoretically? I mean,
yeah. Because
well, I probably wouldn't have access to my mental faculties if I was actually that dehydrated. Yeah.
so then is it a balance between satisficing and maximizing? Because if you don't have water, then you would choose to go into maximizing your given time that you have to go get water.
I mean, it wouldn't be a cognitive or a mental move at that point. My guess is I would be very like reactive in a more embodied animal state. Yeah, there wouldn't be explicit intentional moves at that point.
Does this speak to modernity with our lives in metropolises, with so much excess within our grocery stores, within our conspicuous consumption habits? Does the satisficing speak to being happy with what you have and not needing to buy that next designer item?
That sounds nice. I mean, yeah, if that's how you want to define it, it's very personal, I imagine. So your needs are largely can be largely self-defined from this frame. But by default, yeah, I have it that huge amount of our generation has been very well trained to believe that the thing that's going to really have us be satisfied is outside of us. It's just this one product or one service away. And I have it that you can design your own set of needs and like see how you can regularly satisfy those, and then just put them on a calendar.
So, do you, with your own life, identify your individualized needs, whereas mine or someone else's that doesn't have water is different? And then,
right?
Yeah, tell us about this.
Sure. Originally, I queried like 8 areas of my life. This common tool is a wheel of life, and I rate them out of 10. How satisfied do I feel? And then I would query, what would it take to be 10 out of 10 over the next week? What actions do I need to put on my calendar in service of that?
Which 8 areas?
It's like spiritual needs, fitness, romantic, family, monetary. So that was originally like the beginning of the year, and then I moved it to 12, and then now it's 5. So it shifts over time. Exactly my needs. Every quarter I update it. So like fitness is no longer on there because I have it that it's a current consistent habit. So I no longer need to regularly query something that is just my current present being. I'm noticing I'm feeling like informational right now. I feel like less connected, but it's okay.
This is so cool. So we can take our categories of needs depending on the level of privilege that we have based on I have a habit of drinking water because I don't need to go to a well with a jerry can for water.
Well, that might be your habit too. You just walk the 2 miles to do that every morning and you just take it for granted.
Yes. But
for me in Silicon Valley, when there's like everything's grabbing your attention, everything's shiny.
Yes. So there's a hierarchy of needs that water, when met at the convenience of a faucet inside of a home, becomes one that I don't even need to budget time for or quantify as a basic need that needs to be met anymore, because as my basic need has been met in that category, and I'm privileged enough to where it will be likely the rest of my life.
Hopefully, yeah. Probably.
Hopefully, yes. And then you had these other categories which it becomes a little bit interesting thinking about categories like spirituality, because that as a basic need, it feels like is a basic need, but it also is placed at the top of this hierarchy, that then once you have all of these other things, then you can pursue self-actualization and transcendence. But some of the poorest people in the world that aren't a part of the economic machinery, that are earning no $1 value per day, are some of the most spiritually actualized people.
Could be the case. I mean, it's very relative and depends. Yeah, again, it's easy to be enlightened in a cave, or in a smaller impact group, or it really depends what outcome you have and what your circumstance.
Harder to be enlightened as a billionaire or a president of a country or a CEO of a company, that type of stuff. Easier to be enlightened in a cave because it's like a vacuum of sorts, where you're not tested by your family and company and staff. And
the selection effects of people who are in high status or company positions their personality types are most likely to be the type that is playing upping the numbers game and is really good at leaning in the direction they perceive progress endlessly. And occurs to me as a more maximizing mindset, sure, yeah, and that makes it less probable that they would have access to that state as easily.
Oh, so we can be so ruminative in our maximization frameworks of life that we don't take a step into our satisficing frameworks.
Yeah, I mean, most people are, I think a lot of us are familiar with the marginal returns curve, and the payouts will get smaller and smaller over time as you keep leaning in the direction of something that's paid out for you in the past. And then sometimes then you're trading off again, like against family time for making more dollars show up in your bank account. And there's always, it's not as black and white, but like, there's to be conscious about where that time and intention is going. That's all this is an intention, a gesture, an invitation for me.
Yeah. So you took a category like fitness, which initially was something that you would need to query about your life on a more frequent querying basis until it became such a habit,
right,
where it no longer needed to be queried. So like we were talking about water as potentially one of those that once there's daily water, then maybe you don't need to focus 2 hours a day on going to that well, that type of stuff. But then you had all these other categories. Like, what were you doing? Like, how do you quantify, how do you query your own spiritual or intimate with a relationship, romantic well-being? How do you query those?
For me, a common frame is progress is happiness. And if I ask myself, do I feel 10 out of 10 in this domain in my life? Your brain generally, my brain will generate an answer pretty easily.
You start with, do I feel 10 out of 10?
For me, in this domain, yeah.
Interesting.
And likewise, settle for anything less. I guess this came out of me sharing with previous romantic partners how my general experience of the world is like 9.5 out of 10 and it's pretty difficult to prioritize because everything feels great all the time. And like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, I don't know, but maybe I can put some words to it, make it more legible, and have more people be in this state so I can play with them more in this way.
Isn't there also so much subjectivity of one's emotional state?
Yeah, totally.
Because
Could be all wire heading, yeah.
You may just want to be saying to yourself that I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally possible.
If I'm working a lot on this project, which I am, and I'm not passing as much time on maybe this intimate, romantic score, I may be then saying things like my work score as I query is quite high and my romantic score is quite low, but I may say that because I'm working so much, I'm consciously choosing to be focusing my time on that. Therefore, my romantic score can also be high because I know what I'm doing with my time. But if I feel deprived in that, to like be honest then about my own queries is paramount. I have to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. This helps me be in deeper inquiry around those topics. Exactly. I mean, you're doing the work right now.
Interesting. So let's go through the categories again that you had 8, then you shifted to 12, and
Sure.
So yeah,
Now it's 5.
5. Yeah. So what are the categories?
Fun. So like this for me, it falls in that category.
Fun.
Oh, this is a lot of fun. This is my intention. I see everything as a Rorschach test.
As a what test?
Rorschach test.
What's that again?
The Rorschach inkblot test. You look at an inkblot and you like project all over the thing, and then like you make up some stories, and that's basically our entire lives. Anyways. So
it's basically our entire lives. We'll get to these other categories after fun. So
sure, okay. I mean, other things are like one wheel and circling online and authentic relating games. But yeah. So we.
So like our
really into
whole
it, yeah.
adventure into consciousness is.
I have it projective identification, and that's my story, or what my character suit, what Alton's ego believes in, and the narrative self.
A projection identification?
Projective identification, like my parents or some figure that I picked up pieces from, like modeled some behavior that they projected onto me, and I lived into those beliefs. Their listening actively created me as a sort of creature that like values filial piety, or collectivist culture, or guest culture, being able to infer your needs without you having to explicitly state them. And these are all things like by no choice. Anyways, my identity is blended with theirs and those projections to a large extent. My central nervous system is wired around that.
Whoa, yeah. Okay, we'll get to these other categories in a little bit. Just
sure.
this is too rich here to leave. So
maybe it's related to the second one being fate.
Oh, the second one's fate.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Contribution to community or impact, or anyways, like what am I giving my life to? So that feels like a similar texture to what has you your eyes light up, or this face, yeah.
Okay, so interesting. Fun and fate are these first two that we're reviewing. All right, so within.
I can do it. We can invite other people to do it. You can do it. I mean,
Yeah.
It's actually pretty close to what the virtual assistant talks with me about for 2 hours every week. Is this frame, and then the 2 hours at the beginning of the week is to put things into action. Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Since you brought it up, let's unpack this a little bit. We'll try and get to some of the other weeds. So you have a virtual assistant that reviews your query into your...
It's a facilitated conversation.
So you self-assess.
Yes. The first, yes.
Okay.
First minute, we bring to mind, how does it feel, Alton, in the domain of fun for you for this past week?
Okay.
I sit with that for a minute. I like review in my mind, replaying those memories, what I most appreciated.
Interesting.
After that minute, then I give a rating, and then I write for another minute about why I chose that rating. And the next 2 minutes is putting anything on the calendar in service of those. Anyways, here's all. Yeah.
So you write, he or she asks you a question, and then...
I wrote a whole template for the conversation, yeah.
Yeah, okay. They ask you about how are you feeling related to fun, regarding your fun.
Mm-hmm.
You take some time, come up with a number, like 1 to 10.
Well, I'll replay some of those memories.
Yeah, you take your time replaying these memories, not talking to them about them, or talking to them about them?
Not talking yet.
Okay. And then, but I assume someone could also do it where they talk to the person about the memories.
That was how it was originally, yeah.
That's how it was.
I
Interesting.
mean, I do eventually. So first, the minute is just silence, sitting with that, generating them. Then I give a number, and then I speak to why. She puts in the main keywords, or like who I spoke with and what stood out to me. Just from the principle, like what you appreciate appreciates.
Yeah.
And consciously, I'll have that more available to me, and I will be my neural net's more likely to reach out to these set of people. And anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel very heady and proceduralized right now. Maybe I'd like to... maybe I'll just put the template in the thing, because that's probably higher fidelity than me explaining it, because maybe someone's on the other end scrambling to type things, and I'm like, you just...
Let's put a link in the bio to the template, however much you're willing to share. But I would also like to continue.
Make a guided track for it, yeah.
Yeah. So
it was mostly just a stance towards the world is satisficing that I've found very peace-inducing. I have a default stance of like ecstatic peace.
Yeah. A default stance of ecstatic peace. That seems to me also like the drop on a moment-to-moment basis being constantly aware of the ocean.
That feels resonant.
Yeah.
I don't really know what words you said, but yeah, it just feels resonant. So yeah.
Peaceful ecstasis. Yeah. So doing satisficing assists you with the process of being in moment to moment peaceful ecstasis. Okay.
In this world of like living in cities and boxes, yeah. By default, I have it that our intuition will like be actually wired around the correct things, but in this world of super stimuli, it washes out my ability to sensitize my priorities, myself to my priorities. So satisficing helps for me.
That was huge. In this world of oversaturation with stimuli, it makes it more difficult for us to organize our priorities.
Me, yeah.
Me too. Every person I talk to says that. I haven't met one person that doesn't say that. Does someone have to be in a cave so that they don't have that happening to them? Everyone's a part of the exponential technology age. People are coming online every day.
That we see in our filter bubble, yes.
Well, everyone, even in parts of the world that don't have smartphones yet, are getting connected to the internet by the hundreds of thousands.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see how people are not entering into the overstimuli world. I think everyone's entering into the overstimuli world. There may be some very few, maybe indigenous subcultures around the world that are not getting smartphones, that are staying in their land. But even then, colonial efforts have still somehow made it to like drag them into the economic machinery somehow.
Sure. But I want to be aware, yeah, okay, it feels like we're vilifying in some way, but like we're also wanting to tile the universe with our values on this show as much as they are with their industrial machine, and or like that pattern that people like out of like the naturalist archetype. That's like, oh yeah, we should go back to nature. Like you should learn how to kill a chicken, and that's just another pattern of.
That's quite extreme. Maybe more so, the word balance comes up a lot. And you see indigeneity, you see modernity, and you see a balance that can harmonize to maximizing prosperity, satisficing prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like has been a main ethos of the show and our conversations on it, especially in the last couple of months, is finding that exact balance.
Yeah. Well, you can engineer it.
Yeah,
That's how I have it.
In the process of doing that architecting, and you have this format with a satisficing with a virtual assistant every 2 hours every week, 4 hours every week.
2 hours for that framework,
Twice.
and then 2 hours later for like setting those into action and like being on the quarter, like in my life, reaching out to people, following up with things. The intention is between 80 and 95% calendar integrity. To like follow through with everything on there. And it's basically a practice in the source of all confidence I have found is in regularly seeing my intentions cohere into accomplishments. And calendar integrity and having confidence that anything I put in my calendar will arrive or arise in my life because I'm that type of person, is like deeply satisficing and confidence inducing for me. Yeah, and that's what the other 2 hours is.
I like the focus on following up on your self-assessment with a virtual assistant. You're following up. So those other 2 hours are the follow-up to see how you are performing with increasing your fun or fate or spirituality or romantic or whichever one of these categories up from 6 to 8 like you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Or you want always 10, you said.
I started with 8 categories. I went to 12 categories,
yes,
and then I went to 5.
But I meant the ranking itself. Like if you're at 6 out of 10 in romantic, you would never shoot for 8. You would only shoot for 10.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Tolerating anything less occurs is,
Yeah,
What,
cool.
what kind of life am I setting
Why
myself
would
up
I
with?
ever do that? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so...
But I am, if I'm doing it unconsciously, or if I don't take this on as a practice in my life, if I'm speaking to like 5 year ago me, knowing about it now, I am unconsciously condemning myself to that type of life.
Yeah.
It's a probable, almost certain future.
Yeah. So we have it's important for us to pursue a 10 out of 10 across all of these need categories.
For me.
Yeah.
That's the world I would like to see, and that frame, is generated from like world peace through inner peace.
Yes. Why would someone need to logicize their life to this degree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hyper-systematizing and grew up in Silicon Valley. I mean, it's I'm the outgrowth of the set of neuroses that farmed my subjective experience. I imagine archetypes of other people who identify with ADHD or just being soaked up in like millennialism. They're just more powerful systems that will like hijack your nervous system otherwise. And I have it that you can choose to be a self-author in this case.
Oh, now we're at the key point. Yeah, I see. Oh, interesting. The true self-authoring rather than the hijacking. Yeah. Okay. I see how logicizing via this resolution of querying these need categories is deeply helpful for self-authoring, yet also is maybe overly quantified selfie at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative too. I mean, people who journal once a month could be considered overly quantified self, or people who journal 6 times a day could be considered over quantified self, or this pattern, right?
Oh,
it's
interesting.
All relative.
Or those little biometric devices that capture biometrics. They're like watching their heart rate variability every second.
Mm-hmm. It's a similar, maximizing mindset. If we cram more features in it, we'll sell more than anyways. Do what serves you, right? Do what works. And some people's lives, my life at some point occurred to me as not very workable. And so committing to this calendar integrity and committing to this frame with these assistants has made my life occur to myself as much more workable. And I have fluency with whatever intentions that I would like to cohere as accomplishments. And that's like something I could never otherwise personally experience as intentionally. prior to the system in my life. But again, I have no idea how much I've shared it with several other funded founder friends, and they found it a very good liking it. They took to it.
Yeah, I'm vibing with satisficing my life. I am very passionate about self-authoring rather than hijacking. And that's actually something on the show that we talk about quite a lot, is know thyself and self-author thyself. Otherwise, there's many of other institutions that are wanting to indoctrinate your spirit, nervous system into their self-authoring. Okay.
Yeah, here we are.
Okay.
Main query that could
Interesting.
be helpful is like, this is all there is, and like there's nowhere else to be for me because I got the time budgeted here and I'm here, and everything else is just not in my existence right now, and I can afford to be fully present here right now with you.
Yes, that's right. You can tell by the look when there's that full presence in the here.
Oh, maybe you can. I can't tell that yet, but yeah, my internal experience of myself occurs that way, yes.
Yeah, my internal as well. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
What are the other categories? Fun, fate, romantic, physical.
It was family.
Family.
And feelings and finances. And I wanted to bookend, like, the alternative world is where I can't afford to be fully present with you. You probably know what the texture is like to be with somebody who's like, oh, like, what time is it? And like, okay, I'm here, but I'm like halfway out of the conversation because I'm like following up with this text message and I gotta like do these other things. And like, I have like this thing and it's really important later today. And by the way, this other thing happened. And like, oh my God, I'm so pulled in so many directions. And there's a certain texture.
Yes.
That being with that person has, that's like, is that the life I want to have and impact the thousands of people I'm going to interact with and the thousands of people they're going to interact with? Is that what I want to put in the world? Versus, here I am, and this is all there is for me for the next, hour, however long the thing is, I don't know, but I could, we have systems, like I'm trusting you to facilitate the thing, and my phone will buzz at some point, and then I'll be like, oh, I'll do another thing, and then I'll be fully with that. Anyways, that was, I wanted just to share the contrast, to share what, deepen my experience of that.
I like how you use the word texture. The texture of here, now, present, is wildly different than the texture of bing, 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 boom, 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 I gotta run, missed my bus.
That's fine too. Like, I have compassion for those states and like that version of me like 5 years ago or so, and it makes this state that much richer and more enjoyable when I try that character suit on for a little bit, or I'm in the presence of someone else who maybe has only ever known that character.
Character suit.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've self-authored your life more towards the peaceful ecstasis character suit?
Sure. I mean, but if you query me anytime, if you queried me 5 years ago, I would think I would profess the same thing too. I imagine in some number of years I'll be like a totally different person. Like, oh, what was I thinking doing that Satisficing thing? And so like, or, I'll be like, oh, I have a lot of compassion for that past version of me.
Doesn't it feel like we look back at 7 years ago, Alton and Alan, and not only have compassion, but also that we have love for the evolutionary trajectory. We have. You think that peaceful ecstasis 7 years ago was, you'd say, present for you at that time? It's really hard to quantify these things, but it seems like it totally. I guess. Wow, this is so hard to go back to.
In logic land, I would probably try to corner. If you were querying me in that way, I would probably use logic as violence to try to corner some argument into how I was already that, and I would do some spiritual bypassing or something and believe I was in that state, maybe in a similar texture.
Or for me, I would have maybe said what was coming up right away was, no, I wasn't. And right now, maybe it feels like I am more of the time in the peaceful ecstasis. So maybe 7 years from now, I would be saying that I was more.
I'll be happy once I get to the grass is greener over there.
Yeah, I'll be happy once I have peaceful ecstasis every moment. But
you seem to give it to yourself now.
This is the question we were asking at the beginning too, around these quote unquote basic needs being met. There's still many subcultures around our planet that have deep amounts of interconnectedness with each other and their environment, and they have a close tie with the hydrological cycle to get them the water, a close tie with the different areas of land that they go and
different
get food from.
Different preference sets and different environments that have them more sensitized to their intuition or the environment. Yes, definitely.
But they have peaceful, not always, but sometimes there can be found a moment-to-moment peaceful ecstasis in that symbiotic process. Whereas the metropolises, I feel, have more of the bing, bing, bung, bung, I'm late, blah, blah, than symbiosis with, we don't even see the stars here, we don't exchange a sheet of paper for the apple.
Yeah, if I'm a big CEO of a company, it's totally my incentive to put people into situations where I squeeze all the life out of them as my employees to up my bottom line so I can buy my fourth daughter her 17th Ferrari. So it makes sense, and I have compassion for that too.
Yeah.
And we'll keep doing it because we're humans, and that's okay.
But
it's just the pattern we run.
We can spiritually enlighten the whole civilization.
If they're open to hearing that, but it's more intoxicating. Like when you're intoxicated, you can't make a sober decision around a thing. Like if you've gotten everything you thought you could want, like until they hit rock bottom, they're not really gonna, until they find themselves like in a state of desperation, they probably won't have the ears to hear this.
Or if we have the biometric measurement of a state of interconnectedness, we can measure a corrupt politician versus the Dalai Lama and show that that is not enlightened, and that there's a neurofeedback system that creates enlightenment for that person in the position that they're in. So it may be, yes, a rock bottom scenario where they realize that the 17th car for the fourth daughter isn't happiness, but there may also be a science and spirituality married to be able to show biometric states of unconditional love and interconnectedness that then can awaken us further to achieving those states towards enlightenment faster.
I'm a little hesitant around buying into these frames because it does eke of maximizing culture.
Oh yeah.
More, faster, more enlightenment, now.
More enlightenment now.
Everyone.
Maximize enlightenment, yeah.
We'll start a podcast.
But it feels like The goal is to evolve consciousness towards a more enlightened state.
For you, yeah.
And you
for
know?
a lot of people. I don't know if I have that explicitly in my mind as like a goal. Internally, the ownership is like to be a clearing for miracles to arise. And some of the frames like satisficing and maximizing, being aware of that distinction leads to more what occurs miracles in my life, of like things I had no previous reference class for that occurs, like deeply generative or ecstatically peaceful. I have it that my life's more easeful and more fun when more people have access to this language or this way of being. Sure. And everyone has their own self-sealing beliefs, right?
Well, what you just said, though, is very important, that we have a happier, healthier, more conducive social fabric when more people have access to the tools of enlightenment.
That's been my experience so far, but tomorrow I could have a different experience. Sure. That's close enough, yeah.
Maybe another thing that can be referenced as we talk here is you had other categories that many of us feel like we want to achieve a 10 in that we may only be a 6 in. So
yeah,
let's talk about, there were other ones you listed there. Family, finance,
family, feelings, and finance.
Feelings and finance, yeah.
The first two.
Let's talk about
fun
those.
and fate. Yeah. And maybe just sharing the downstream levers here. I encourage people to write down or just set a 2-minute timer and generate. I'll have a whole sequence if people are really interested. Yeah. But it's important that they're personally owned and that they generate these areas of life that are important to them. That it's like a length that feels good and like, something that they own and step in themselves. So templatizing my chosen ones after doing several iterations over the past 3/4 of a year is going to give you a very different result. Anyways. So, family. Yeah. It occurs to me that family is a much more difficult frame for a lot of friends. And hyper-individualist culture, and often easier for people to be like, no, they just don't get me, and the okay boomer meme and all that stuff.
Wow.
And I have it that if we don't feel complete with family, your parents, and like accepting and generous and compassionate in those ways, then you set yourself up to having that play out also with your kids, or with your significant others or others.
Yep. How do we skillfully navigate that?
Well, asking this question for me, and then enrolling and requesting my family to like play this game with me. Playing the game of 10 out of 10 family life.
And what did you do when you asked your family to play 10 out of 10 family life? Did you ask them what a 10 out of 10 family life would look like?
Exactly.
And then
share a vision of like traveling to France together, like having these dinners together, and I shared with her also like what I'd love to see that helps like pave the way. And then like I want to be able to feel great about traveling with them, and I like don't currently feel heck yes to that, but I would like to. And so I have a facilitator every week for 2 hours facilitates like the conversations that I would otherwise totally avoid, or just it feels really spiky or uncomfortable around. You just go right for the thing. And then when I regularly see myself bring up topics that are like really uncomfortable or like otherwise people would avoid, and then at the end I feel very connected with her, and like we're hugging each other, and then we're like making food in the kitchen together, and I would otherwise never see that. Like that's deeply meaningful for me.
So there's a process of asking your family members for what they would have as their 10 out of 10 family life vision.
After I've enrolled them in sharing with them what I'm out to create, and if they would like to participate in that
If they would
game
like
too.
to, participate in this game, then they hopefully, if they do choose so to say yes, then you gain awareness of what their 10 out of 10 variables are, what they would like in that vision.
Right. And it can be like, I'm a yes to like the traveling thing, but not a yes to like traveling with you in these ways, or like yes to traveling with you, but I would need a facilitator, and I would want to.
You referenced this earlier too, so it's skillful to have a facilitator when needed.
For me, and
when
in
needed.
my experience, sure.
Okay.
I mean, but yeah, when needed, of course, is
If
self-soothing,
I am struggling to get to a 10 out of 10 family, a facilitator, how do we identify a trusted facilitator? And then how do we approach that conversation with a facilitator? Our parent has to be open to that, or our family member has to be open to that, which is in itself may be a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was by a half year or lifetime, depending on half a year process of, well, maybe more like a year and a half of regularly expressing that. But it's up to me to offer something that's attractive enough for her to want to say yes, because she's also, my parents are in a stage where they're like, hey, we did our thing and now we want to enjoy life. And if talking with you occurs as like stressful, or I don't want to talk about something but you want to talk about something, that's not strongly to their incentive. But when I speak to like what love I see possible, and a family that I like paint a vision in their mind, that occurs to me is like, if my parents are people that I can go to when I like need a shoulder to cry on, and I share that as something I want to create, then that leaves them in a different space. And I'm requesting if they would like to play this game with me, but I'm not attached to that. I'll be sad, and there's like impact on who I get to be around them if they say no, but being a gentle, consistent request is like, for me, like true commitment. If that's really what I'm wanting to create.
A gentle, consistent request. Yeah, that's well said. So a gentle, consistent request for my family to want to have a 10 out of 10 family happiness, satisficing. And this speaks really heavily to your focus on this type of quantification assisting with self-authoring. Because if we don't frequent our query towards family being 10 out of 10,
And
then
just slides down is my experience.
Yeah. Or it may slide, if you are spiritually enlightened, it may slide up slowly over time. We've had many guests on the program talking about how their path of spiritual awakening makes it so that when they engage with their family members, that they themselves kind of aurically butterfly effect out awakening states to their family members or their friends, etc. But that's still not, again, gently, consistently asking for, may we write down what a 10 out of 10 family vision would be.
I mean, or sharing it in conversation.
Or sharing it in conversation.
Doesn't have to be so.
But then you also indicated that your family member may say something like, I would like to do this, but then you may say, well, maybe yes to that, but no to that, not for me. So that's why it's also good to write, because then it helps. So
sure, yeah, if that's what works for you, yeah.
this is kind of also the idea of deals and contracts, the social contract between people, where if we agree that a 10 out of 10 family life looks like when we make this contract around a specific thing, that we uphold that agreement towards that specific thing, or if you don't want to anymore, you approach me and talk to me about that specific thing. Interesting. Basically, in a nutshell, also it's creating hyper transparency in your life, and hyper awareness about all of these needs, and also of the closest people to you as well. Yeah.
I mean, hearing that, actually, maybe some of this may be born from, I previously did these relationship agreements, which is a similar social contract for some set period of time. I'm like full in, and until whatever the period was, either like a month or a quarter, and then a year. I'm full in, and like there's no need to, no code switching costs, because I'm here, and we have upper and lower bounds established for like what that looks like for quality time, and just being really explicit about it, so people's needs are met.
This also reminds me of even almost now approaching 2 years ago, we've had guests on the show that have been talking about how they have very unique relationships with their family members or their partners in their romantic relationships with their friends, where they'll do things like chunk out a month or 3 months, and then they'll have very specific things that they've tried to codify about their interdependence on one another. And it's dynamic. If certain things aren't working, you may switch them over time, but then after a month or those 3 months, you kind of look at them again.
Right.
Where your needs being met with your own self, or with your romantic partner, or with your family, with your friends.
Yeah, every quarter we would ask like a whole set of questions. Some of those are exactly like, is there anything that you're sacrificing to be in this relationship together? And is there anything that you would like to shift about that, if that is the case? But yeah, exactly, like, is there anything that's in the space between you that you would like to address that you haven't had an opportunity for? If you think about the past quarter, and the things come up. Well, you don't.
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really awake.
Welcome. You can only see what you are.
It's so interesting because Silicon Valley and the quantification culture can both get a good rep, because if your heart rate and heart rate variability and your microbiome and your EEG, etc., are being mapped, maybe there's a way to predict a pathology before it gets there, and you can pass that additional 10 years with your family because you actually cared about quantifying your biometrics.
Thanks.
Then there's also this inundation with data and noise that we're experiencing that's causing these textured states of like
by default, maybe.
And then there's this textured state of peaceful ecstasis that is described by many as feelings of the drop merging with the ocean, feelings of ego loss or ego death, feelings of deep interconnectedness or unconditional love, that if you add quantification to that and start saying, okay, virtual assistant, you have a script where you're asking me about how I felt this week regarding my metric of unconditional love, regarding my metric of states of deep interconnectedness. So I have one. Here's one. I like feeling everything as God, or as the one, or source, or whatever people want to call it. And I frequently look in the morning when I'm waking up, do I feel everything as God? In their day, do I feel everything as God? At night, do I feel everything as God? And I review my day. How was my day in terms of feeling everything as God? So,
I have an image of us like showing off our shiny tools. Yeah, hey, look at this one. Oh yeah, look at this one. Yeah.
Maybe then this does come with even more self-authoring towards peaceful ecstasis if I also bring on a virtual assistant, which again, this is all going to be templated in the bio for you guys, that if I query my own peaceful ecstasis with the assistance of a virtual assistant in the process, that I may be able to achieve in not like a maximization sort of way, but rather I think peaceful ecstasis makes me feel better in my moment-to-moment life, so I think that would be great for myself.
Yeah, I have it that anything you want in your life is just a number of conversations away, and you can design that life you want to live.
Yeah. So interesting. Because it really is dichotomizing the inundation with data and tasks and stuff, with also the picking up of some data and some tasks, which are just more oriented towards peaceful ecstasis and less oriented towards, and more oriented towards your needs and what you want in life.
I have it. It's integration, yeah.
One more time, habits of...
I have it that's a form of integration. Yes.
Oh, a form of integration.
Both you're able to meet your needs, like monetarily or whatever else they may be, through this like unifying system of having it all on the calendar, where at all points there's just only one place I can be, and my calendar is telling me. And I have to hold all that in my mind. There's no cognitive load, like my Mark Zuckerberg or all the people don't have to, like Barack Obama don't have to induce cognitive load on choosing what to wear that day. It's on my calendar, it's right on the thing. Live out of your calendar, and then it's great. You don't have to constantly be querying yourself. Am I seeing this? Am I witnessing this as God? It's just becomes a default way of being for me. Not to say that's not helpful.
I will get back to where I want to go in a little bit, but I want to address this point you just brought up, which is it then that having an analysis of my microbiome where a nutritional AI coach is then shipping a drone with my food for that meal to me so that I am not choosing what I eat when I eat? Is that what we're...
If you have that sustainably, and that's available for you in your life, and the payout is worth it relative to God, I mean, sure, right? But I don't.
Well, you gave these examples of my clothes being picked for me, my schedule all being in the calendar, so there's no cognitive load in that. So is that the same for...
If you've authored...
For food? Okay, so if we've authored that.
And for me, if I have relative confidence that, like, losing that wouldn't be catastrophic, So there's a world where I do that for so long that it atrophies my ability to generate that independently. And there's some probabilistic future where, like, for whatever reason, Google Calendar doesn't exist anymore. But there's probably like other calendars that will satisfy the same result. But for like this AI drone sensitizing myself to like what I'm actually hungry for, and then never having to prepare food, there's a world where, well, no, I'm still pretty confident that humans have pretty good intuition there. I guess this is all just for in service of reducing cognitive load for me.
Yeah, this is quite an interesting subject given the digital superintelligence revolution that we're entering into, because maybe there is some of that intuition around something to wear, or intuition around something to do that day, or intuition around what food to get, or intuition where to go with your family on that vacation, or on that critical path of conversation that maybe an AI coach, no matter how many permutations has run, may somehow not be able to get. That could be interesting.
Well, yeah, our intuitions are also predictably irrational. So.
Exactly. So then could it be then that there is not so much room for these decisions around what we wear, what we eat, what we do in the day, that it's just better to have the digital superintelligence acting that out for us?
I mean, that's what I have my calendar be for me, yeah. And my virtual assistant and the calendar coupled together is effectively a superintelligence. That past version of me during that 2-hour window is far more intelligent than the me that's sitting like deciding, do I want to watch TV or do I want to play a video game right now? It's probably not, try not to, but like in those moments, I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely the good idea. But like, nope. So it's superintelligence because like mediated through that virtual assistant and through my calendar. I'm like, oh, this is the thing I'm doing. Even if I want to do something else, that's not. There is the 80 to 95% calendar integrity. So if it's too high, then I have it that I'm shooting too low. And if it's lower than 80% integrity, then it's unworkable. Okay, so there's still some flexibility.
Let me get a example from you of calendar integrity. Like you said, 80 to 95%. So there may be scenarios where it feels too constricting. Give us scenarios of this.
If I'm just no longer a super heck yes to whatever the texture, so like I think I was slotted to run an underground adventure, and I think I was really just feeling or craving just more quality time with my friends in their house, and I could choose not to go to the underground adventure. But it has a similar texture or shape of pattern of like quality time with friends in person. What else? I guess it's a most common case. And sometimes if I have slotted on there to write something, was a common procrastination point. If I move it back 3 times, then I have to admit to myself it's not important enough. These are all downstream though. I feel like I could go into all the if-thens, but it's not really.
I do some of those with. It's great because you can click and drag the events in the calendar over. So if you click and drag it over and then you finish it, that's great. But if you don't, after 3 clicks and drags of it over, then it's not important enough.
I have to admit that to myself, right? And it'll be revealed during the end of the week review. Right? So yeah.
Oh, because your assistant's also viewing your calendar.
Yes, he has access to it.
Oh, so if things are not executed and they've been clicked and dragged over, or you canceled them, there will be clear transparency.
That's right.
And then
I used to have my calendar open. I'm considering having it fully public, but that is also really helpful for coordinating with friends, because I'm generally very open to having other friends join with me for almost everything I do.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Also, this complete transparency life, where all of your biometrics, all of your demographics, your psychometrics, all of your calendar, all of your messages, all of it is completely open like a book.
I would personally like that world, but I recognize that there's a lot of ethical implications, and other people are not nearly as open to that as I am.
I've also proposed that style of world, and I've gotten pushback specifically regarding fear. Fear of hate crimes, this type of stuff.
Sure.
That was the big one, and this is why I think going towards a spiritually enlightened civilization makes it so that there is no hate, that then makes it so that the complete openness of the biometrics and the calendar and the messages, etc., can be perfectly fine.
I'll add my frame on spiritual enlightenment would include hate and would welcome hate.
How so? How so?
I have it that it welcomes the full spectrum of emotions and possibilities. There's a world, probabilistically, where hate is basically non-existent, or people don't take hateful acts out into the world, but that hate can still be present and in someone's mind, and that to be welcomed and for...
Okay, so hate can be welcomed in the mind as long as it's not acted upon in the world.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if I'm saying that.
Yeah, this is a very also challenging one, because
I'll put it stronger that I don't think someone's enlightened unless they can welcome fully the whole spectrum of emotions.
Yeah, but welcoming the full spectrum of emotions is, I think, still a world without hate, in the sense that if hate arises, it can be welcomed, and it can be, if you want to, immediately moved on from to love.
If they want to, yeah. Or if they choose to be in a hateful state for the rest of their life, then that's their choice as well. And to honor that. I mean, from an outside view.
Yeah, but their hateful state for the rest of their life will have a butterfly effect on the rest of our world.
Mm-hmm.
An enlightened world wouldn't have these hateful butterfly effects cascading out in the world. I don't know. It's very abstract and far, but
I mean, it's very present for you. I'm like, well, it sounds like a lack of acceptance to me. I'm just...
It is. I like it as well. I would like to understand how to architect that world, but I also realize that...
Start here, right now.
Yeah.
It's us. It's you.
Yeah.
Welcome in.
I don't know that I guess that doesn't resonate with me so much. I don't know why that welcoming anger and hate into my essence doesn't resonate with me. I want to radiate
to your essence, but to welcome it.
I don't see, these things are strange. These words are strange, because I feel like
words. That's true.
I feel like the enlightened civilization would be around being transcending hate.
I hear spiritually bypassing hate.
I don't know if that's the same. Theirs aren't the same to me. Spiritually bypassing hate is...
it occurs to me as like a core part of the human experience, and that to like
I don't
transcend
think it's
that.
a core part of the human experience.
I guess it's on my... I have these emotions as like
Yes, let's see.
the core.
Okay, so we have some emotions. Can I share this with the audience? Okay.
Rage and anger and all the things. This is a Pletchik's Wheel of Emotions. I can... Oh boy.
See if we can get it.
Nice.
Focus. Nice. Hashtag autofocus. Okay, teach us about this.
And that's if I can feel the full and welcome the full spectrum of emotions that are on that for any given state. I don't feel like I'm fully feeling. And I fully experience things. Oh, at 11 p.m. it opens up the... Anyways.
At 11 p.m. it opens up what, Mr.
Another
Quantified Self?
another automated script thing that that's another example of something that reduces cognitive load. In the morning at 9 a.m. it opens up my journal, and then at 10
interesting, to get you to do the...
Yeah, it doesn't matter like what I'm doing. It's going to be like, hey, I'm opening this up in 10 seconds. You're journaling right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
ecstasy, vigilance, rage, loathing, grief, amazement, terror, admiration.
Yeah, you got it. And so I get to feel that. Well, I usually use this ring, which is more...
okay, the next ring up is joy, anticipation, anger, disgust, sadness, surprise, fear, and trust.
Yeah. So I get to
for
feel
those
all
that aren't getting this
right
on video, for those that are only getting it on audio, that's what it's a...
Yeah, it's Plutchik, Plutchik. Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions.
How do we spell it again?
Plutchik.
Plutchik. Plutchik. It's Wheel of Emotions. Now, albeit you can go to... I don't understand why love... Why is love in this top right corner so far away from the center?
It's just... it's just gradients in terms of intensity. So the closer towards the center, the more intense it is.
Yeah, but why is love in that corner so far away from the intensity of the center?
I think it just happens to be between joy and trust in this way.
I'm very skeptical of things like this, albeit they're quite interesting.
I mean, all models are false. Some are useful, right? I find this useful, and
you may find it. Yeah. You may find it useful. I personally don't try and subscribe to rage and anger for me to get some sort of like a feeling of all feelings.
Sounds like anger.
Does it?
That's my projection.
I don't know.
It's not bad. I mean, just again,
like you could easily exchange that word rage with rape and say that, oh fuck, we should all experience rape so that we have experienced all different types of emotions.
To welcome the set of feelings or textures that arrive with that. Otherwise, if you suppress it, you will often like be at effect of it, or it'll fester and then blow up, and then you will find yourself in that state.
I think that people can awaken to how rape is shit, and then they themselves can educate their children as their children are born into the world that rape is shit, and that...
okay, well, hang on. So that's an action. I guess these are talking about emotions for me.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that an emotion that arises when one's in a process of violence or pillaging or any of those other things has to do with rage and anger.
I mean, I don't know.
It can also have to do with gluttony or corruption or
I'm not sure what
jealousy or greed. A tumor could be pressing against someone's amygdala and they could go out and kill someone, right? So there's so many components and variables that go to this, and this model may be helpful in some ways, but why is love like some random thing in the top right corner? Meanwhile, all of these in the center are, there's just like the world that I care about architecting is love, period, and then if you want to go through this catalog of emotions that even some of them are in the categories of rage and anger, then simulate that experience for yourself in this catalog of conscious experience that you can go into. But when you take rage and anger and try and bring them out into the real world, you kill someone.
Wait, did I say that?
No, you said you don't bring it out into the physical world. Yes. So even if you like navigate your states of anger or rage in your own catalog of experience and consciousness,
you're
then
doing it anyways, or you're at effective.
I don't know. This is a very interesting subject as well. Just there's something deep about it that feels like when I go to push button myself into anger or rage, that I don't feel love at that same time, and that may be problematic in ways for butterfly affecting out, even though you say it doesn't act in the world, it may still act in the world.
Right. Well, that's my concern. If you don't allow yourself a healthy space to experience that internally and be with that fully, even at the temporary cost of love maybe, then it will fester, and that will take effect through you. I mean, I have it that a large part of the last running 2-minute window that my story and my projection is that you were at effect of anger, and that's my judgment, and that would occur to me as like a less high valence state, and not something I would want personally. But it's just not matter. It's just like things just are.
The argument then would be that something like an emotion wheel would need to be explored throughout life. Otherwise, then, if hate or rage or anger or violence are never explored, then they would erupt like a volcano sometime down the line.
Yes.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Do you believe that we exist in hierarchies? And that these emotions are sometimes adaptive? Because if so, it occurs to me that this is a very valuable tool to navigate those hierarchies. And being able to have self-sufficiency to recruit those resources or systems that generate those resources, personally. And I'd love to have more people have more access that are more welcoming for that. And that's how I see it, right? But I totally, I'm all ears for new or alternative systems, totally. This is just one that happens to work for me so far, right? I probably would have rationalized whatever system I was using 10 years ago, if you asked me then.
This has been an interesting couple minute put into this area. Super cool to unpack with you that specific one. Yeah. I'm looking forward to what the architectures are. So looking forward to that. Okay. I wanted to ask you about the other ones that we didn't get to. Another one is finance. One that so many of us would like additional abundance in. So what does it look like when I self-author myself towards 10 out of 10 and have a virtual system that's constantly checking my process towards that?
Well, constantly checking is once a week for 2 hours, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
Or maybe twice a week.
Twice a
depends on how
week,
you look at it.
but that's still like routine checking, sure. It's routine.
Sure.
Okay. So what does that look like for finance?
Well, so again,
For
for me,
Yeah,
this
for
is
you.
a fairly downstream thing that I'm hesitant because a lot of people try to templatize, like, what did this successful person eat for breakfast? Because now they're a CEO, so therefore if I eat this breakfast, now I'll be a CEO. I mean, like, so... I guess I can describe the process of the thing. I mean, just regularly asking myself, what would it take to be 10 out of 10 in my finances? I mean, the first several times were like just having confidence in my budget. The later times like to having confidence in the next, I don't even remember, like a couple week period of my life, then the next couple months, the next couple years, and then this last weekend we did it for on the scale of decades, and to know that here's the plan, this is what I'm on track for. And to have this overall sense of like my comparative advantage right now, maybe these set of things, these are things I could be attuned to later on in my life. These will be easier for me, so I should like min-max my skill points in these domains. What does it look like concretely? What's the, this upcoming week is, I mean, you just put in deposit for a new place I'm moving into, and
Congrats.
just having, thanks.
That's cool.
Having
in
just
the
be
bay?
super
in
clear.
The bay still?
Yeah, it's a Magic Community House.
Magic Community House?
Ecomagic.org.
Oh, ecomagic.org. Nice. Nice. So it's a like co-living with other
That's right.
like-minded.
Yeah. Like-minded. Interesting.
like-minded, but also not in some ways. Enough to have
Yeah,
mimetic
I wouldn't put
parallax.
that- yeah, yeah.
Enough
I
to
wouldn't
have
put that as one of my top
parallax.
descriptors, but
Yeah, but people that
But I
care
would like
about about
I like that they were that they were fairly distant but super workable, and they've been around for 40 years as a community house, and I've never.
interesting.
Anyways, they got an
Okay.
incredible system. Anyway,
So you
so
put the deposit down.
that-
Yes, yes.
so
Yes.
to be with their systems and like I'll spend a lot of time with them over the next period, and like what was the concrete outcome? Going to their event tomorrow evening, and I can check my calendar. But I mean, what's the?
Well, this kind of leads us into the point about intentional living spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Is this an intentional living space?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
There's a pretty extensive interview thing. That they, yeah.
Okay. So
I had to watch a bunch of videos and like share a bunch of. It's pretty great.
what do you see in these intentional living spaces? Like, why do you care about them?
I have it that it fits the form that we like. My guess, my story is that we evolved through. It's like a village format, multi-generational. You get to see people at different stages of life, and really see like a day-to-day level. Harnessing everyone's different comparative advantages really makes things go far more smoothly and feel much more integrated and involved. I mean, I have it that humans are just much happier in that type of format versus like the nuclear home type of family format, or even it can be workable in like the Asian multi-generational, like grandma takes care of the kid type of thing while the parents are professionals, but the village format seems like there's much more cross pollination and much more richness.
What are the default ways of being that you see in these intentional living communities that make them so important?
I mean, one that first comes to mind is like emotional availability for your neighbor. It's such a the fact that we don't seem to have that anymore. People don't even speak with or know their neighbors, or like they do, they just know my name or say hi, and that's the extent of the relationship. It's so fragmented. What was the value of those?
What are other of these states of being in these communities that you see as valuable? The know thy neighbor one, emotional availability. Yes.
Generally, there's some shared mission, like being in it together, in both geographic and conceptual proximity. The spaces you make when you're suppressing yawns are right.
Yeah, there's like a little hole that happens. Yeah.
The sense of
What was the last one?
being in it together.
Shared mission.
Yeah.
Being in it together. Cool. Okay. What's a
yeah,
shared
that's-
mission of one that's like an intentional living community that you would like to share?
Well, Eco Magic is out to create fittedness between the trajectory our environment is in and the set of needs that we have as humans. And that's like one of the main things. Or that's how I had. That's what I remember from it. But like that seems like what else is there? I mean, that's like satisficing to me.
The needs of our humans and the needs of our environment.
What the environment can provide. Yeah.
What the environment can provide.
I mean, I guess it's some combination of that.
Needs,
Some in
yeah,
that space.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So shared missions.
So
What
it can be
else?
symbiotic, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What are the other ones? You called them the
There's something
default
like
ways of
crypto
being.
houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shapes the stance I get to take in my life. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around.
Yeah.
The frame. It expands my range of abilities of like personality suits to try on, which increases adaptability and fittedness, I think.
Oh, cool. I like that. I like that one a lot. The more different personality suits that you can put on, the more adaptable we can be. Yeah, I like that one. Like, do you know how to vibe in a liberal or conservative neighborhood, or in China, or in Russia, or in Saudi Arabia, or Brazil, or in the U.S.?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have it that you don't really fully understand something until you can play like either end of the spectrum of it. Or
Yep. That's a key point too. Actually, I like that
Same
one.
thing with emotions and rage.
Huh?
Same thing with emotions and rage. Like, there's no true love without also experiencing rage. Anyways.
Okay. It's not true love without experiencing rage.
That's my provocative Alton statement of the day. But it's not true loyalty unless you have better options. Seems like a similar. Maybe it's different. Never mind.
As though if there was only the option of love without any of the other options, that it wouldn't be true love.
Yes. Thanks. You heard it in the way I was hoping.
So there has to be the option to ebb from love into hate in order for you to know what true love is.
For me. Yes.
So if I'm constantly coached by super intelligence to go towards love, and that I don't swing into hate, that love will be like mechanized and not from the heart.
I mean, I don't know. It's possible that you just don't like have hate centers or something in your brain or something. I don't know. But like, that's just my experience of the world, right? I can only generalize from.
Interesting.
I mean, generally, anything that we take from an external source is going to result in some mechanized version of the thing. It's always you. You're the ultimate decider.
I'm really interested to hear other people's thoughts in the comments on this subject and the things that Alton's been teaching us.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Teaching you.
Yeah, teaching us. Yeah, there's a lot of other people.
When I don't know myself, I serve you, and when I know myself, I am you.
When I don't know myself, I serve you.
Or teach in this case.
Or teach. But when I know myself, I am you. Yeah, when we know ourselves, we are each other. Let's talk about super connecting. How do you view nodes, people as nodes in a social network graph with different spokes as connections between them? If they have just a single line, or if they have a certain amount of weight on that line, maybe the weight is less than on another line where the connection is stronger between those nodes. How do you view them on like a fitness landscape regarding their spiritual actualization or their ability to execute ideas? How do you view and how do you connect these people?
Yeah.
We have this problem.
You mentioned you enjoy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it one sentence thing about what the problem is?
Well, how do you view all of it? How do you,
Okay.
How do you engage as a super connector in the world and see it?
Well, I mean, if you take a moment, there's like a certain texture of the set of people in your life who are like represented as in your family. And like there's like a warmth, or like, for me, my stomach is like more loose, and my shoulders like are more open and relaxed. My hands and fingers feel like relaxed. And then there's like a certain texture of people who are like, if you think about a motorcycle gang, there's like a certain like texture. My hands feel like clammy, and my shoulders feel like shrinking in. Or if I think of like the warmest super connectors I know, like my heart, I'm much more present to my heart. My chest is more open. I notice I speak a little bit slower. My back and my neck like feel more loose as well. If you think of like the past romantic partners you've had, there's like, or for me, like, let's see, there's the whole, like my face feels very like tender and sweet and soft. My fingers feel like reaching out or like wistful. And yeah, more present to my heart as well. So there's like a set of textures or sensations that come to your mind when you like when I hold different groups of people. And then you can do the same mental move for specific people. But there's like people, like different textures go well together. Like there's certain like metal and like wood textures look nice together. Let's see what is an example. It's like the edge of that like silver thing and that like plastic thing, like pretty okay together. And there's certain textures that are just like not congruent, and it looks like garish or something. So I like hold them in mind as like these different colored textures, and similar people are grouped in similar spaces in my mind like that. And complementary people, someone who's like new to the area is like a class or like a group, and then that like fades over time as like a classifier. But that's very congruent with superconnectors, and that like lights up a whole set of people that I want to like message them with. And there's like a crunchiness of like hippies, and they have like a certain more earthy felt sense or tone or something. And those would like clash with like the tech bro archetype, which has another texture. It's like more like clean cut and like clean shaven or bearded. And anyways, I don't know if that helped generate something in the space.
So there's a view of archetypes of nodal clusters that you're viewing. And then what about...
That's one example, yeah.
Then what about seeing them on some sort of a... Do you mean super connecting, like seeing these nodal clusters as super connections between those clusters? Because typically...
Nope. I don't even put everyone on a graph. I just have a felt sense that is called to mind.
Typically, super connecting, at least from what I understand, is a lot about seeing that style of a social network graph based on your ability to connect people from seemingly disparate fields or even a same field, but that don't know each other.
Yes.
That by connecting those two together, create a significant leap forward in civilization's advancement.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Well, cross-pollination is how I see it too. Yeah. Connecting people who otherwise wouldn't. For me, yeah, it seems like the highest comparative advantage thing. Growing up here and feeling like I have equal access to basically anything through conversations. Yeah. I diff the models of the people who have complementary personality types and offer them if they want to connect. Very comical.
So then you do carry some sort of a social network graph in your worldview that then you...
It's not, I don't think it's as explicit as that. It's like people who do those ridiculous math equations in their mind, it's kind of like some kind of...
Okay, so this is not a partial differential equation. This is actually just, Alton and Alan should know each other. Let me make a connection. That type of a feeling. Yeah,
that common mental move. Like there's
that's what it feels like. A
texture of like, this person knows a lot of people. There's like some thing. Okay.
But sometimes the AI coach within super connecting, I think, can do a better job at keeping all of our thousands of connections and knowing which ones are like #biotech, #VR, etc., and then be able to make connections in like a Tinder style game.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt that it would be better.
I'm looking to help bring that to the world. There's so many projects, but that's a really interesting, waking up with a couple of those cards to connect Alton with Susie and Paula with Michelangelo, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so
yeah, I mean, I don't know if necessarily it's a healthful pattern. I do find superconnecting often ends up in maximizing mindsets.
oh, that's interesting. Here's a full circle.
Unless there's a container to hold that interaction and have like crisp or clear follow-ons, it's very easy and intoxicating to get lost in the loop of shiny object syndrome with new faces, but you're just avoiding doing the actual work. And that's why it's so attractive to keep going to the next event, the next event. This next event will be the one. This next person.
That next event, shiny object syndrome, is plaguing our world as well.
Well, and I think maybe you and I may say this, but that's also because a lot of our neural nets have been sensitized to like being receptive to that and like going to those events, or maybe they're paying us.
Oversaturation or stimulation in that specific regard, whereas other people are not exposed to that same amount of
because they're just doing the work.
Or they're actually just haven't been exposed to these
Yeah.
networks whatsoever. Yeah.
There's selection effects, yeah.
Sure.
I'm just aware of the context from which we're speaking.
Yeah, yeah.
Or more, at least. I'm gonna check on your energy levels. I feel like I'm a little bit caretaking, but I'm like, I mean,
I'm probably getting towards the wrap because it's quite late in the evening.
I got quite a long day and 3 days of not eating, so that's like also.
Yeah. That's probably has to do with it as a variable. Yeah.
Like I wonder how much I'm playing into the maximizing up in the numbers on this without having a sensitization towards like how's that health lever? Is that 10 and 10 right now? Okay.
We good. Let's hit some of the classics on the way out. Are we all one?
I mean, yeah, now I'm also like, oh, I know what answer you're egging for too. So, yeah, Life is One is also the company we created on running retreats. Yes, my answer, my experience of the world has been so far, yes.
And within that experience of the world, what have been your feelings of that one?
All of them at once, like Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. My feelings of the one. Yep, utterly intoxicating and incredibly romanticized and deceitful and embracing. All the words. What have been my feelings? It's pretty ineffable. Feels like it's also on demand after like I get some meditation hours and then just yeah.
What would you say is the most upstream issue, most root issue that we face?
Listening. Noticing how your listening actively creates other people. Or what you think are other people. But they're really just you. Some reflection of you. So listening to yourself. Of course, everything I say, I'm saying to me. Upstream issue. Creating crisp and safe, psychologically safe containers for people to practice that skill. in their own lives, so that they may bring that to others. I have it that these authentic relating online platforms are very much in service of that, which I'm happy to share as well.
We put the link in the bio.
I'm happy to put like an application in the bio. I know that there are interesting selection effects around things like this too.
Okay. An application link in the bio for these online authentic relating.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen yet,
Ta-da.
let's use this camera.
Yep. Oh. Okay. Oh,
It says, let's play an authentic relating game.
Yeah.
For those that are listening on audio. Yeah. Interesting. Listening being the most upstream. Yeah. Interesting. What is the purpose of the one?
See life as a playground, to see all life as a play. The purpose of it, or whatever you ascribe to it. It's like a Rorschach test. Whatever I ascribe to it.
Interesting. Whatever you ascribe to it, yet seeing it as a play.
That's for me, yeah.
Yeah, I vibe with that. Collective symphony, a big canvas that's constantly having art being made on it. Expressing a unique expression. Every play, a unique expression. How did you uncover that that's the reality?
Well, I mean, in this moment, and so far, right? I mean, that's the reality. Life is a series of these calibrations. It just felt the most fun to fit on. And my character suit likes it. My ego likes repeating those words, so.
Yeah. Okay.
We're in the in-group? Yeah, we're in the in-group. Okay.
Yeah, we're in the in-group. Life's a series of these calibrations, and the guests that come on the program get to calibrate for their audience, me, other people, etc. Is humanity a biological bootloader for digital superintelligence?
Sure. I mean, I have it that we're already there, too. That, I think this is Robert, who was interviewed on Computer File. I don't remember. He's got a YouTube. Shares how we already have that through companies. Companies are effectively super intelligent since they operate more effectively than any one human could. And they have some like objective, and they will often, through no fault of their own, like trade off on the values of the individual in service of whatever that upping the number metric that they happen to select is. I'm imagining you're talking about like the super intelligence, or like the totally AI around thing, but it's just slightly different to me. Whereas it's basically the same texture to me.
Last question. What do you think is most beautiful?
Here we are. This moment, and this. The sparkle in your eye, like you smile, like, oh, flowers, and like a whole world. I got a brain, a body for now. Hopefully, future me looking back at this moment. The many me's I imagine I get to be through the listening of people here, or yourself and myself. Yeah, pausing and listening to myself and like goosebumps and all that.
Wow. So enriching. Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks, Alton. Thank you, brother.
What a gift.
Yes. Woo. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on all of the things that Alton was talking about on the show. We'd love to hear your thoughts on those things. Check out the links in the bio below to Alton's Facebook page. Also, check out the link in the bio below to
some templates and authentic relating online platforms. That
yes.
Very generous.
Beautiful. You can find those in the bio below. Also, support the artists, the entrepreneurs, the spiritual leaders, the organizations and your communities and around the world that you believe in. You can support Simulation. All of our links are below. PayPal, Patreon, cryptocurrency. You can design cool merch and get paid. All those links are in the bio below. And go and build the future. Manifest your dreams into the world. We love you very much. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon.